My name is Jason Archbold. My presentation, Connecting the Links of the Supply Chain. I've been with Border States for 5 years. Actually, I think today might be year 5. It's somewhere in late September. Is my year 5. And in that time, my role has been as a catalog supervisor, right? I'm leading the effort to gather content, work with our manufacturers, and kind of lead that effort at Border States to get our content into our system, get it so it's a place where when it's visible to our customers, it has quality, that it's concise, that we're saying the things that we want to say. And really, when you look back to the manufacturer catalog, that what a customer sees there, they see in our catalog. That's really been my role. It's starting to change a little bit. I'm moving into more of a business intelligence role, which I'm really excited about. So I might be here in the future, but you're going to start seeing others from Border States kind of enter my role, as I've had with ISC, with product information subcommittees. This is now my 3rd time presenting at the eBiz conference. So those of you who have seen my presentations in the past, hopefully this is a bit of a greatest hits. Of those, some of it has evolved, and for those of you who are the first time, hopefully you're really going to gain something of it. I'm really noticing a change. Last year, I remember Jason Seeger, who's our Vice President of Operations and Inventory, we were talking about how it seems like manufacturers are really connecting to this idea that we need to provide content. And the year before that, it was an idea. The year before that, it was a question of why and how. And this year, I noticed it even more. Now there's talk about how do we get that information to our distributors? How do we get it to the customers? And it seems like every year that need and that discussion seems to raise even more. It's not a linear path upward, it's really that hockey stick, it's really curving, and it's really exciting to me, just in that time that I've had. Now that I get to go to a different position, we'd start to see that momentum build. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background of Border States, our efforts to date, but there's really 3 things I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on the integrity of content, I'm going to focus on the tools that are in place that are going to help preserve that integrity, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what to do and how to do it. A little bit about Border States. We are 100% employee owned. We have 56 branches in 13 different states. We cover utility, electrical, MRO, electrical construction, commercial, residential, data communications, industrial supply, MRO, and plumbing in some of our branches. Our efforts, our catalog efforts really began in about 2005. I came to Border States about 2007. Today we have about 100,000 items in our online catalog. We have about 1,000 vendors represented in our catalog. Our PIM system that produces our online catalog also produces our print catalogs and our print flyers. So if you see in our online catalog, and you see the print flyer, hopefully you're seeing the exact same thing. Sometimes we alter it a little bit depending on the application. This catalog is internal, visible internal. Our content team is 2 full-time and 2 intern staff members. And we have budgeted for more. Historical, how did we get content into the catalog before we started seeing it in IDW and other data sources? We literally sit down with the manufacturer catalog, scrape out their data, use a PDF, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Okay, go all day. Retype. That's how we did it. That's probably 80%, 80,000 of the 100,000 items that we have in our catalog. There's a few manufacturers we've had the opportunity to work directly with, and I would, maybe it's 10 to 20% of our catalog. But our hope is that portion of what we built in the past will start to diminish, and what we're getting directly from our manufacturers will start to increase. As we took that content out of a catalog, this is ultimately what it looks like in our catalog. It's a screenshot of one of our products. We've got an image, we've got a name, we've got a description, features, product specifications. That's what we're looking for. And that's really what we defined as part of our effort that we're trying to acquire from our manufacturers, whether in the past, whether it be from a print catalog, a PDF. Now we're looking more for data to do this. If I could talk about, we talk about the supply chain. And if we think about our content, I'd like to almost talk about a content chain. That content moves through the supply chain like a content chain. It starts with the manufacturer, and if we define our responsibilities, manufacturer, for your products, you have branding, you have data, you have specs, you have installation guides, you provide training, you get the product certified. If we look at our responsibilities, those are your responsibilities. Our responsibilities as distributors is to maintain your branding, maintain how you position the product, maintain those specs that you started with, provide to our customers product knowledge, product support, promote your product, train on your product, produce events, sell your product. If we could break it down like that, that's really what it looks like. And content flows throughout this chain. And that's really that content chain. If we come back to, I hear Bob Gaylor talk a lot about that word optimization. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to optimize in that content chain. The act, process, or methodology of making something as a design system or decision is fully perfect, functional, or effective as possible. That's right from Merriam-Webster. What happens in that chain? What blocks or inhibits optimization? What happens along the content chain? What degrades content as it moves through that chain? There's many things that'll degrade it. It might not destroy it in one step, but it can diminish. It can degrade it throughout it. Really, the fact is that data lacks integrity. That is, optimization, is it pointless, or does it lack value? Is it meaningful? And why optimize is something that you don't trust? That's what we're trying to achieve here. Let me ask the question here. Manufacturers in the room, how many of you work with one distributor? No? Distributors, how many of you work with one manufacturer? How many of you work with one customer? No. It'd be a hard life to be able to do that. So this looks nice and easy, but the chain really looks more like this. And if we start adding the relationships that we have in here, it looks more like this. It looks like this. And there's 4 up there on each side. Take that times 10, take it times 100, take it times 1,000, or thousands. That's what it really looks like. And we're trying to pass content from one end to the other, and yet it gets busy. And then along that pathway, this is my word to manufacturers, if your data has holes or gaps, or it's not complete along the way, you put people here. You put someone in IT who's trying to match up data. You put a graphic designer who's trying to make a flyer. And someone like myself who's trying to get it on the web. And you get people involved who have greater or lesser product knowledge. That'll degrade it. Some of you from my last presentation might remember this guy. I always get half the room laughing, half the room saying, I don't know what that is. This is back from about 1983. How many of you saw Mr. Mom? Okay. How many of you remember this scene? Mr. 220, 221. If you go to YouTube and type in Mr. Mom 220, 221, you will get to it. I don't have a connection up here. I was going to do it. It would have been hilarious. But if you remember, he said he's going to rewire the room that he's adding to the house. He's trying to act like a big shot. His wife's boss asks, are you going to use 220? He has that look of, yeah, 220, 221, whatever it takes. Your product content is going to encounter Mr. 220, 221 along the chain at some point in time. It's not the fault of him. This is probably an IT person. This is probably a marketing person. This is someone else who doesn't have the product knowledge, but yet they've got to piece the puzzle together. What does 220, 221 do to content? Every time it passes through a person, it degrades a little bit. This is the old logo. You can see the description on the first one. The description got lost. Now the image is starting to really fall apart. You get down to the end, 4, 5, 6 layers along the pathway. Guess what? Old logo, wrong image. bad description, does this product even resemble what it started with at the beginning of the chain? So really, does product integrity, product content integrity, does it stand a chance? We got too many connections, too many fires, and you got Mr. 220, 221 sitting in the middle of all this. I mean, does it stand a chance? And the answer is, yeah, it does. It absolutely stands a chance. We've got really three tools in place, three things in place that I think are going to give product content a chance to have integrity by the time it's sitting in front of customers. You start with IDW, you use the UNSPSC schema to get it there, and we have the new DMP that sits in the middle of all this. And there's a presentation after this. Melissa Longnecker is going to be presenting. She's in the back there. Look for her. She'll be talking about this tool right here. I've seen the tool. I've had a chance to work with the tool. I think it's going to add some real value to this process. What did IDW do to the flow of information on this left side between manufacturer and the distributor? Absolutely simplified it. Manufacturers, you load to this application one time. Distributors, we go get it one time, and we're done. You'll notice in the back, I still have the gray lines. They're still there. We still interact. This doesn't take away the relationships we have. It doesn't mean that they no longer exist. It doesn't mean that we don't have questions. It doesn't mean that the data is always perfect, that we don't have to pick up the phone and make some calls. But hopefully what we've done here is taken 90% of that out, and we can focus on issues or questions, really getting to real solutions. And the interactive piece, the transactional piece, is just simply taken care of. The UNSPSC, and you got to say that about 100 times before it can just flow off your tongue. The UNSPSC schema provides a structure for you guys to assemble your data, get it into IDW, and get it to the distributors. That structure makes it easy. And once you get started, I believe you're going to find that it's going to get more efficient for you to get going. I know for us, as we build products from one manufacturer, we build that one item, and then we build family members out from that item. How quick those additional items are to build for us. It's when we're building one item from one family, another item from another family, that can be inefficient. You're going to find those things that make the process efficient for you. But you've got to get started, and once you get that momentum going, I tell you what, that's going to be critical, and that's the key, is get started. IDEA, they have templates for you to use to get started. Just give them a call. Get your account manager involved. They will help you. They can get you going if you haven't already started. The DMP. Up until now, this is my opinion here, I think IDW had two shortcomings. One is, from the catalog content side, that content didn't exist. The IDW gave you the transactional information, UPC code, dimensions, the things that we needed to transact the product. It also gave pricing. There's two of the three prongs present here, and the data flows sort of from manufacturer to distributor, but it lacked catalog content, and it lacked a way for the distributor to come back through and say, I see a problem with the product. I have a question. That's where we had to pick up the phone. There was no way to just simply flag that item, send a note back to the manufacturer. The DMP is going to do that. You can go grab that item, ask the question. On item XYZ, I see price of $1,000 per 1,000. On all the other products that are similar to this, it's $10 per 1,000. Did you miss the decimal point? Let me know. You can ask that question on that item. The communication becomes specific to that item. You can see all the content available on that item. And when you fix that content, it's one and done. What do I mean by one and done? That distributor who noticed $1,000 per 1,000 and asked the question, is the decimal point missing? They send a note into the DMP. goes to that specific manufacturer. That manufacturer takes a look at that note and responds to that note. Yep, we missed the decimal point. Thanks for pointing that out. They fix it in the IDW, and it got fixed for all distributors now. You don't have to send a note back to all 200 saying that's fixed. You don't have to do that 200 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. You do it once. It's back in the IDW, and it's done. And the efficiency that it's going to bring to the relationship that we have between us, I think is going to be vastly improved, especially when we start to see catalog content, which is going to vastly increase the amount of data that we're exchanging. As questions come up, this is going to be a great tool to help us interact in that process. And if you guys have questions or comments, stop me at any time. Just throw them out. The fundamental question we have to ask, why is this important? Why are we doing this? Up on stage this morning, we heard several reasons. It is all with the customer at this point in time. What is the customer asking of us? We are seeing different demands. We are seeing different behavior, different needs, different desires. Customers are coming to us more and more for more detail. They want easy access to the information. They want to access that information from more and more points, whether it be their iPad, computer, whether it's 3 a.m., 3 p.m., doesn't matter. They want access, and they want to access it the way they want to get to it. If we recall what IDW did with the relationship between manufacturer and distributor, it simplified it. If we take this for a second, we focus on what is the relationship between one distributor and their customers, strip it away, this is what we're trying to accomplish here. What IDW did to the relationship is simplify the relationship. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to put tools between us and our customers for our customers to use. We want to load those tools with product content, product information, so they can access that information from the field, from their phone, from their computer, at 2 a.m., 6 a.m., any time of the day, and get to it. And again, behind the scenes, we still have the arrows. Those don't go away, but now you have another layer on top. This is what we're trying to do. And when it comes all together, you look at that flow of information from manufacturer to distributor, customer, this is how we picture it. This is how we see it coming. This is the side that we're trying to create for our customers. These are the tools that are going to help you get that information to us clean, efficiently, completely, and then we can take it from there. So with these tools, we've got that opportunity to preserve that product integrity that we can then pass to our customers. And our customers love us for what we're doing. And we're all, and as distributors, this is where we come in. We're all trying to do our thing with our customers, what our customers are asking from us. So you're going to see, that's where it'll be different. But yet, we want to pass that same information along, so it's seamless. And then use manufacturers, whether you're seeing it in our catalog, Graybar's catalog, Wesco's catalog, doesn't matter. You're seeing the same content. It's how we get it there. That's the part that we figure out. And that's kind of our world. So for those of you who are kind of at the beginning of this, kind of the how and what to do. 5 years ago, I remember getting to border states, sitting down and saying, what is this? What does this content thing mean? How do we get started? We were already started. We weren't very efficient at it. We were kind of learning at that point in time. So if I could go back, give myself some advice 5 years ago that I could have carried through to today. First off, define your priorities. What is it that you're trying to accomplish something, but what is it that you're trying to do first? Measure your progress and score. Critically important. You define your priorities, find your starting point. Is it your A items? Is it your A and B items? Top selling items? Top moving products? Is it your top growth market? Is it items that belong to A item families and their related items? Every one of you are going to define that a little bit differently, and that's fine, but just you've got to define it for yourself. That gives you your starting point. I've said this, I don't know how many times throughout my time in the catalog, I don't have time today to build all the products I need to build, but I can always rest comfortably, hopefully rest comfortably, that I'm building the right items today that we need to have built. That kind of became our little thing. Yeah, you know, today we're building the right items. We're not going to get them all done today, but we're going to get the right items done today. Once you get started, you will gain momentum, and then get yourself into something like this. Identify, measure, score, repeat. Do it over and over and over. It is a moving target, so get a metric in place that you can run with. Evaluate that metric from time to time. But know that today, when you run that metric, tomorrow it'll be a different set of products. But you've got to find that time period or that baseline to get you started. You've got to get someone here. You've got all these priorities coming through. Get someone who's sitting here and defining the priorities, measuring, and kind of controlling what's coming out, you know, that flow. That was really my role for quite a while. I would work with our market managers, I would work with others, or people who were out in the field promoting products, people who were in key relationships with top customers, and you really need to have that one person who's really kind of this triage, if you want to call it. Measure that progress and score. Make it visible. What is your percentage of A items that you have built? What is your percentage of B items that you have built? What percentage of your items have an image? What percentage of your A items have an image? What percentage of your items in an emerging market are built? What percentage are unbuilt? What is your goal? And when you can start getting that in place, we've always kind of said what gets measured gets managed. And that's where you can get your momentum. And that's also where we gain support from our executive level and our executive team. So when they started to kind of see the progress we were making, and kind of see that value, suddenly it wasn't the question of why do you need this, it became a question of how can we help? What do you need? What's standing in your way? The question really changed. Once we started to show that progress, that was really helpful, obviously. So ultimately, when we take this through, we talk about the how and why. You as manufacturers, what benefits are you going to see? And this is where we have to answer the question, what are the benefits to doing this? Because ultimately, you guys have to go back, talk to your leadership. I know we're all being asked to do more with less, but the benefits are real. The benefits that you're going to see to this effort are significant. First off, I look at historically our efforts. So when we were building content ourselves, and we were focusing on sort of the A items, key items within a market, marketing managers defining products for us, we were focusing on a pretty small set of products. It might have been 5% of your products, it might have been 1% of your products, but it was very narrow in scope. A lot of times these are A items, maybe your B items if we had time to get to it. But that was because the effort was really on our end. If you guys provide that content, you get it into the IDW, what you're going to see, this is all the products that you have. This is the full range. These are the demands. Previously, this is what you'd see on our catalog. You're going to see a greater number of your products in our catalog. you're going to see your C items out there. But the C items as they are attached to your A items, because these are just alternates. They're alternate sizes, dimensions, ratings. 80–90% of the time when that customer comes in and says, I need this product, that 10% of the time they come in, I need this other product. It's the same as this one, different size. We can show them that we actually carry that product, give them a part number, make it easy. But those products would have probably never been built because we didn't have time to do it. But if you guys provide it, this is what we're going to start seeing in our catalogs, in the distributor catalogs. You will see more of your products. The presentation this morning, his name was Eric, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That was really inspiring. That was really inspiring. It made me ask that question of myself. You know, what is it that I want to do, and what is it that I need to do? And you know, that creative side. A lot of times, what gets me out of bed earlier in the morning is when I have that, I get to work on that, what I want to do, or what I think is really important. What's important, you know, in the past, where a distributor was spending our time, I know where we were spending our time. Our time was spent building content. It was spent assembling content. It was spent filling in gaps. It was spent trying to just simply gather. And we were spending less time promoting product. When I think about what we want to do as a distributor, we want to sell your product. That's what we want to do. We don't want to get the data together. We want to see it work. I mean, obviously, we want to see that happen. We want to see it be efficient. Where we want to spend our time is we want to spend our time promoting your product. That's what really gets us going. When we're in front of our customer, we're promoting your product, we're providing those solutions, and we're working with them to really come up with what's going to work best with them. That's what gets us going. That's where we want to spend our time. And when your data is there, and we can spend less time working with their data, we will spend more time talking, thinking about, and acting upon how do we get this data in front of our customers, rather than just how do we get the data together. That's where we'll spend our time. We just hired a digital strategy manager, David Held, who's back here. I'm just thrilled with that. And that's where we're going with this, is that question of how do we get this content in front of our customers in more ways, through more methods, where it's more accessible? How do we get more content in front of them? How do we do more of this? Because that's what we thrive on again. You provide the content, you will defeat Mr. 220, 221. If we're passing your content through, we're not filling in the gaps, we're not trying to piece the puzzle together, your content will come out looking like this and not like this. And again, not that Mr. 220 is not incompetent, she's not incompetent. It's just, that's not their job. And it's not what they're good at. And I always kind of end it with this. Actually, we've been moving along pretty good, but I always end it with more. You provide the content, you will see more of your products in more places. You'll see more information about more products in more places. We have B2C processes. We talk about B2B, B2C. I've read more and more white papers that talk about B2I. It's business to individuals. Those individuals, they go to work, they've been using these B2B applications, they go home, they use these B2C, but really it's kind of morphing into simply we are promoting to individuals. Those individuals are using more applications like Amazon, other industrial suppliers, that I won't say, and they're getting used to that. And that's where we need to go. And with that, that's where you'll see more. More of your products in more places and more of the time. A couple points I just want to end with. I believe very much you can protect your catalogs, your catalog content, the integrity of your product content by providing it. You provide it, we will pass it through. We will not be recreating, we will not be reassembling it, trying to regather it. If you provide it, that's what's going to happen. You're going to pass it through, and it is going to retain, hopefully, all that it started with by the time it reaches our customers. If we're going to maintain our future catalogs, when you provide your content, it's going to make it easier for us. Rather than trying to, again, we're doing it in a very manual way. You'll see a greater depth of your products. We're going to be able to shift from gathering content to promoting your products, which is what we want to do. And I think the most important people, or the most important customers, are going to see more products. They're going to see more information about your products. And they're going to see more places. They're going to be able to access it in more and more places. It's going to be easier for all of us. So there it is. That's really what I have. So questions, thoughts, comments, ideas? And end early, so.
We were auditing your data.
Yep.
Do you have any tools that you use today to script or information against that data and business tools, or is it still
I'd say what's been emerging more and more lately is we've been using the UNSPSC code set to compare back to our original data. And what we found were several areas within our hierarchy where we were using the same attribute in very different ways. We had that problem of watts, wattage, watt rating. I think we had 8 different ways where we expressed the attribute wattage. And then that applied to amperage, volts, and several other attributes. So we used that as a way to clean it up and really ask that question. We want to use this one attribute as much as possible. It's not always 100%, but as much as possible. So we started with our attributes, got that cleaned up. And now as we audit, a lot of times we're auditing within nodes of hierarchy, similar products. One thing that we also have is our PIM system is directly linked to our SAP. So as products are discontinued, as products come through the material management process, they get discontinued, they get blocked for sale, it gets flagged in our PIM system, so we're able to take it out of our catalog right away. And we do that weekly right now.
Do you give your manufacturers feedback when you find out it's issues? Or you have a way of giving that feedback so they...
Probably not as much as we should have. There are times when we found like a discrepancy in a print catalog where we'll let the rep know, or we'll get it back to the manufacturer, but it's usually that glaring mistake. I think with the DMP, it's going to make that really easy to do. It's going to take minutes. A lot of times we're trying to figure out who do we contact. The DMP is just going to be a simple direct link back to that manufacturer. So I think that's going to help solve that.
Can you talk a little more about how the distributor interacts with the DMP?
Yep.
Does it become seamless with IDW?
I would describe it as parallel to IDW. Your IDW processes will be there. It's another website that you can access through IDW. And when you're in it, you'll search for a product just like you would in IDW. You can go find that single product. You can either search by manufacturer, search by unique catalog number, or manufacturer part number, get to that item, and then once you're in that item, you will see the full data set right in front of you.
And that's the IDW data?
That's the IDW data. Yep, it's not a separate set of data. You will see the IDW data from the DMP. And that's where you can point out this field, the value that I see in this field, and there's a notes field on the bottom that you type in your message. I think the price, could you please verify the price on this product? Or the color, the attribute for color, you're saying it's red, your part number would indicate it's white. Which is it? Is it red or is it white? And then that sends the note back directly to that manufacturer. Yeah.
You had in your measurements, one of
it's tricky. Sometimes you have a product that is an industrial product, is it a tool, what is it? How we had been defining it really was by, in our organizations, by marketing manager. So I can really just marketing manager and say, here's the number of items that you have online. Here's how many of your A items are online. Here's how many of your B items are online. So that's how we did it in our organization. But you're absolutely right. There's probably 10 different ways you can do that. Just kind of have to pick one. And they just run with that method. That's how I could turn it into something that was individual. I could go to marketing manager A and say, here's your score. And make it very, they'd have to stand up at some point in time with their team and say, here's where I'm at, where are you at? It became a little competition at one point in time. So, anything else?
If you have a part number and the factor that you cannot find in the GMP, do you just have a message then to the manufacturer saying, I'm seeking this part number in the data, but it's not here? Is that how you would?
You would have that opportunity to do that.
Okay.
You'll be able to just send a general note back to the manufacturer. These part numbers I cannot find.
Okay.
And in the DMP, there's one of two things that would result from that. Either those products have now been turned on to use a distributor, so they just simply need to get turned on, or those products are not in the system. And then the question is, could you add them? We encounter that quite a bit. A lot of times we're building a catalog for a strategic customer, and there's a whole series of parts that are unique to that one customer. And there's just this slight variation in the catalog, and these we can't find in print or online catalogs. We find something really similar, but we never want to assume that that's actually the product. So we can send that note back, and hopefully what we'll get back is, yeah, it is actually those products with this one variation. That's what hopefully we'll find. Anything else? How many of you in here, this is your first time in Texas? A few of you? Okay. Well, hopefully you enjoy it here. Hopefully you have fun. You know, Dallas is a good town to visit. From the opposite end, straight north of here, you jump on the highway, you end up in Fargo, North Dakota, which is where we're from. So, it's cooler there, but actually it's beautiful at this time of year. I really enjoy it. If any of you have more questions, comments, or thoughts, stop me in the hallway. Introduce Jason Seeger, who's our VP of Operations and Inventory, David Held, who's our Digital Strategy Manager. Grab any one of us. You'll find that we're all pretty passionate about what we do, and we love to share and offer advice, and hopefully we can help in some way. I would encourage you, the DMP presentation is next. There might be some value there to see that. The other presentations, obviously very valuable. Just going to point that one out. If you're not able to make that one, Melissa, I know, is available to maybe do other demos outside of this. So enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you for coming.